But one of the requirements for a Master's in Management or an MBA or a Master's in Finance is taking the GMAT exam. Now, let me tell you something. This exam is completely different to basically any other exam that you've taken in your life. The only thing I can compare it to is potentially the 11 plus or the UCAT, but like on steroids. I had the worst time and best time studying for the GMAT, except my studying time was cut really short, which I do not recommend for you guys. So if you guys are watching this video and you're looking to do a Master's in Management next year or the year after or applying to it, I would start studying right now. But let me give you a rundown of what the GMAT is, why you would need it, and some tips and tricks. So the GMAT is the Graduate Management Admissions Test, and it's used by all of the top business schools in the world. There are some universities that don't require it, but sometimes they have their own test which you could take, and it's waived if you take the GMAT. You need it for all kinds of business school graduate courses, so Masters in Management, Masters in Finance, MFAs, and an MBA. Now, I took it last October, and I took the GMAT Focus Edition, which has completely different scores to back in the day where everyone was like, a 700 is a great score. It's dropped. I think a 700 is equivalent to like a 645. But depending on the course that you're doing, you want to have certain scores on your GMAT. And the way the scores work is really different to every other test that you've done. You're essentially ranked against the whole world. So rather than having like a percentage or a grade, you have a percentile, which is your rank compared to all the other test takers in the last like 5 years. Now, this is good if you're in an English-speaking country and you speak English really well. You do really well in the verbal reasoning section. However, in the maths section, you might realize that our system of learning maths in the UK might be a little bit different compared to India or China or Singapore. Now, those countries tend to do so much better in the numerical reasoning section, which also kind of weights a little bit more depending on the course that you're doing. So studying for maths was basically the only thing I was doing. I can't lie, I didn't even revise verbal reasoning. I took the 11 plus when I was younger, so I kind of had some of that in there, but verbal reasoning in GMAT is completely different. There's a lot of comprehension, a lot of reading, and critical reasoning is a lot more deeper than you think. For me, because I was getting a generally good verbal reasoning score, I didn't want to confuse myself with all the techniques that there is online about critical reasoning and comprehension. Comprehension I did struggle with, but critical reasoning I was like smashing it. So I pretty much spent 1 whole month studying for the numerical reasoning section and part of the data insight section, which is a data sufficiency, which is really tough. Now, I still ended up with a decent score compared to, you know, other test takers taking the Masters in Management, and the requirements for the Masters in Management is generally lower than an MBA. However, it is good to have a good GMAT score, especially if your undergraduate degree you didn't perform well in. The way a Masters in Management application works is very holistic. There's loads of different areas where they can kind of take note of, such as the GMAT score, your undergraduate studies, the grades that you got, the electives that you took, and also your internships, work experience, and leadership experience as well. If one aspect isn't doing so well, your GMAT could be that saving grace. If you are applying to a Master's in Management next September, or you're looking to do an MBA, start studying now. And only study around 2 to 3 hours a day. I'm being honest with you. It is draining. It's a lot of work, especially for working full time. I would not recommend doing a lot of studying because you need to be able to retain the methods. And that being said, there are certain strategies that you need to adopt when you're taking the GMAT. And here are some of my strategies. So firstly, you need to know the structure of the GMAT. There are 3 sections. There's quant, verbal, and data insights. These 3 are really important. Quant and verbal especially because that counts to most part of your grade. But there's a secret that I didn't even know until after I took the GMAT. You get a choice in the order that you take these tests, so you can do quant first, verbal second, then data insights third. If you do really well in a certain section, you should put that one first and do the one that you perform the worst in last. This is because the whole system of the GMAT is really weird. If you're doing really well in the first section, you're kind of at a range of a really high score as you carry on throughout the exam. But if you start with quant and you're not that good at quant, just because you want it to get it out of the way, if you get quite a lot of questions wrong at the start, your grade is already going to be capped at a lower point as you carry on throughout the exam. So the order in which you take this test is really important, and it can also boost your grade just by choosing the right order. If you're someone that struggles with the verbal section, you need to go look up strategies on YouTube. You need to look up all the strategies, reading comprehension. You don't want to be reading the entire passage. You want to be looking at all the key elements and taking the right notes down. Now, I knew that studying for the GMAT was going to be expensive. A lot of people hire tutors. A lot of people pay for, practice courses and online courses as well. These can sum up to around £500 to £1,000, which I wasn't really ready to pay for. So I tried to make use of all of the free resources that I had available. In addition to getting the 3 textbooks, the GMAT overall one, and then the numerical verbal data insights, I think that's a necessary buy. You also get access to more practice tests as well. And practice tests are literally gold. You don't want to be doing all of them at the start. I'd say do one just to get your base level, and then later on I would say to space it out and especially get too close to the exam so that you can see your improvements and see where you're peaking off. You can only use the paid practice test only 2 times before you can't use it again, because after using it 2 times, it's not really worth doing those same questions. But the best free resource that I used was GMAT Club. So GMAT Club is a forum where they literally post thousands and thousands and thousands of questions. They might be made up. They're not official GMAT questions, but you can be practicing your maths throughout that forum without having to pay anything. There are loads and loads of instructors on GMAT forum that are always posting questions and posting strong, working out for each different question, especially for the quant stuff, so you'll never get confused. There's one specific instructor called GMAT Ninja. He also has a YouTube channel where he covers all of the content of the quant section, which honestly saved my life. Because regardless of whether my quant score went up or not, before I was just kind of guessing the questions. I'm pretty sure I was doing that. And then after a whole month of practicing all of the different maths and doing practice tests and loads of practice questions, I actually understood the maths and understood the methods. And my last tip is specifically for the quant exam. It's not a maths exam. If you did maths at university or you did maths at A-level, it's very different. Only because you're not meant to be showing you're working. You're not meant to be doing the right method. There's going to be loads of different methods for doing the same question. The key is strategy. And if you do consulting, you know this. When you do a case study, it's about getting to the answer the fastest, not about the right methodology. So as long as you have a strategy for each different topic, each different type of question, where you can answer questions really, really quickly, such as data sufficiency, there's the AD over BCE. You can look that up online. I'm not really going to explain it here. But yeah, there's loads of different strategies that you can look into, and whatever works for you, works for you. Don't try and employ everything. But yeah, good luck for your GMAT exam, guys, or revision if you're just starting. And pop down any questions below if you have any more about the Masters in Management or business schools that I chose and I was looking into. And yeah, safe.